organized by Talking Films Online. This group was formed on June 2nd, 2020, that is during the lockdown when most of us were watching a lot more films than we normally do. This River-centric Art Film Festival is curated by Indra Sankar Ghatak, who has also been initiating the discussion every Saturday. Indro is a research scholar at the School of Humanities and Social Sciences, IIT Mandi. His research interests include comparative literature, Indian literature, partition, cultural, and translation studies. He has been a teaching assistant at IIT Kharagpur and IIT Mandi. He has participated and presented papers in several national and international conferences, such as those organized by IASA New Delhi and Center for Memory Studies, IIT Madras. He is a sports enthusiast, a singer, and a published poet. Today, we will discuss Kaushik Ganguly's BISHORJON. Welcome to everybody, and over to you, Indro.
Thank you, ma'am. Good evening, everyone, for this third session that we begin today on BISHORJON. So this is one film that is a bit, I would say, anomaly to the definition of art films that we have seen over the course of discussions that we had over the two sessions. This is one thing because this is also an award-winning feature film category. So more so because on the that this film had a production house quite popular, and the director is quite acclaimed. And he has been working some of the very good movies of in Bengal, particularly, and winning a lot of accolades and awards. And this film probably is a bit different from the ones that we have seen as of now. Both the films that we have discussed, Podda Nodir Majhi and Tita Shetti Nodir Naam, have been novel adaptations, and we have had uh, various fascinating discussions on how they are made into films, what adaptation theories that have gone behind, and exactly how these films can be culminated into one argument that I have been taking forward, and that is the precept of cultural memory. So I'll share the screen. Host disabled. Ma'am, can you?
It's enabled.
Okay, thank you. So this is the broader category that we have been discussing, that I have incorporated the narratives from river-centric art films and ideational interchange between memory and cultural identities. So this film probably gets into a different kind of niche of its own, portraying how memory can work or rework, and how cultural identities are formed or reformed, and how people from different lands, from different country, nation states, to be precise, how they are coming together and getting to know the different tastes of each other's countries, and they belong to various different religious identities, as well as from a different kind of backgrounds. So we will be discussing that, and I would obviously take a look at what are the things that we have been placing our work on. So these are the four films that we have been talking, and these films, and again, this film would be recounting of how subaltern people are inadequately represented in mainstream cinema. So the films portray one single thread of argument that the mainstream media does not include these art films showcasing dehumanized communities. These films are inherently dumped into the category of art films and excluded from popular cinema, and hence away from the grand narratives of history writing. Some this film Bishorjon is one particular film which is obviously cannot be excluded from the pantheon of popular cinema, but it has all the characteristics that we have had seen in the art films that we have seen, and how this film also aids to the epistemological discussion and knowledge production of how these kind of people, communities, or the nuances of emotions that we have seen in this film is something to be really talked about, and emotional baggage and cultural baggage as well that comes forth through these discussions. So the knowledge that has been passed down through cultural memory has a formative component which acts as an enlightening, civilizing, and humanizing force. The films covered here in this art film festival that we have been discussing, when they come together, they create brief stories that make up the film historiography. Yeah. So this is the precept that I return back to again, the cultural memory, and it is reflective in three different ways. So this is where I would start. So we have been talking about how the grand narratives of history writing uh, have been there, and as per Lyotard's plurality of small narratives that he proposed in his book, The Postmodern Condition, a report on knowledge. This film also serves as a kind of keeper of memory, reminding the bourgeois viewers of visual media that there are stories of socially, politically, culturally, economically, transnationally evicted people whose voices are silent, but this genre of films replants them amid fading light of mainstream memory. So the knowledge that has been passed down, we have discussed that this formative component acts. Why does it act as a enlightening or civilizing and humanizing force? Yeah. So this film portrays an aging process where the people who immerse the goddess Durga after the festival in the borderline river Ichamoti are placed in the volatile waters of Epar Bangla and Opar Bangla, which is here and there. It is in this process of drowning of their bodies that people like Nasir Ali dissolve into the status of kafirs, infidels, and migrants. Nasir's immersion of the idol of Ma Durga invariably makes him an expatriate in a land of his own religion, which is here Islam, and own language here Bangla. Islam because the state religion of Bangladesh is so, and own language because the Bangla that he speaks is very different from the Bangla that is spoken in Bangladesh. So the dialect obviously comes up for discussion. Ishamoti's languid pace mirrors this story. This is the river Nasir Ali, here portrayed by Abir Chattopadhyay, crosses on the tumultuous night of Bijoya Dashami, when the riverine border becomes fluid and boats from both sides complete the Bishorjon midstream. I would bring into this discussion cultural critics, and in the essay Collective Memory and Cultural Identity by Jan Asman, he claims that Holbrook and Warburg, we have discussed them in the first lecture. So they claim that the theory of cultural memory attempts to relate all three poles. What are the three poles?
Told.
Memory, memory, which is contemporized past, culture, and the group. The group here represents society and what these three poles mean to each other. In this film, River acts as an agent of amnesia that displaces the actual self of the main characters. Nasir speaks a different dialect than the one spoken in Bangladesh, where he has to hide and becomes evidently entangled romantically with Podda, a widow. Hence, the local characteristics being transplanted to a new territory creates something new or hybrid. What do I mean by hybrid in this instance is Nasir's identity as the brother of Podda, and the woman's identity as something more than widow, as a woman of self-expression. Holberg and Warburg claim that cultural memory is the body of information from which a group derives an understanding of its uniqueness and unity. Cultures hold immense knowledge and wisdom wrapped in the form of folklore, festivals, rituals, epics, poetry, pictures that aid this canon. The horizon of cultural memory is unchanging over time and is fixed. The fixed points are important historical occurrences that change the course of history. And one such historical occurrence that is very much potent and even continued till today is the one that is portrayed in the film, the immersion of goddess Durga midstream on the riverine borderlands of Ichamoti between West Bengal and Bangladesh. And these kind of films also talk about how there is this celebration of the spirit of a cultural unity that that we see. So when another critic in this canon of cultural memory, Malcolm Bradbury asserts that even in the absence of temporal updating or alterations to the geographical or cultural setting, context can quickly change how a story is to be understood. So here we have to take into consideration how the geographical and hence the cultural setting changes. It can have a significant impact on how a story is interpreted or reinterpreted and what is to be emphasized or re-emphasized. Every film, like the work that has been shown here, is framed in a context that includes time, place, society, and culture. Depending on the environment and value systems and trends, these things can change. And while the film directors, which here is Kaushik Ganguly, attempts to address this reception of reality by modernizing the story's time period in an effort to find a contemporary resonance for their audiences. When stories travel as they do, when they are thus adapted across media, time, and place, they end up bringing together various processes of representation and institutionalization. So, what are these various processes of representation and institutionalization is something that Edward Said had talked about in his book, The World, the Text, and the Critic. According to Said, there are four elements of an idea or a theory that travels. These are the initial circumstances, the distance traveled, the acceptance or resistance of within which these conditions and the circumstances travel, and the change in the idea's meaning in the new time and new place. So hence, these stories act as an addition of the works which find new contexts and also includes does have to be taken care about the changes. Hence, the main argument that I come back to is this kind of film like Bishorjon also, is something to be transformed is something which is transformed, or why is it in this art film festival? Is because it carries the back cultural memory, which refers to the reusable texts, images, rituals, some events in the past that affect the future or events that are being shown in the film that are particular to each society and each area and whose cultivation serves to preserve and transmit that society's self-image. In this film, particularly, we see how the film begins, and we are aware how the border the Nasir Ali when left on the shores of this place, the opening song and sequence that we see, it is very clearly mentioned that the border is opened today. There are restrictions. This is the initial dialogue that Podda gives to her son in the very beginning of the film, which is happening at a which is happening in present time. And obviously, then we move back to the things that have happened to in her life and the dynamics that continue even today to happen in the borderlands of in the border riverine areas, even regarding the immersion of Ma Durga Durga Dashami. So the opening song and sequence takes us to through to the places. These places actually I have visited these places. Taki Hashnabad, which is in West Bengal. It is part of North 24 Parganas, and a river in Chamuti look overlooking Bangladesh. And BISHORJON obviously tries to portray the aging process where this kind of Epar and Upar Bangla business happens. And Nasir, who we get to know that he was not involved in the immersion process, is actually a smuggler. And the act or the story or the narrative that that one carries is something very different, not that of immersion of Goddess Durga, but it is this trick that he and his consorts pull together, and they kind of use this as a very, very fine means of smuggling goods across the border, which is obviously their trading things. One important thing is obviously, yeah. So the issues that come to my turn are something about Ganesh Babu, who is Ganesh Mondol, is again a person who is involved in the fishing trade. He looks after the peasants, the farmers, the normal priests, the mullahs, the kafir, the doctors who are from different communities and different class of people. And he's kind of this kind of overarching figure who in the village of Sripur, where he distributes sweets and nimkis and jalebis, and even gives 200 rupee bonus for whatever labor these small these commoners in his village actually tend to. So this portrays something on his character as well. So Durga Puja and the Dashami that we witnessed by all the communities living in those areas, and not just religious communities, but also some class and uh, different caste level communities. We see these three things, I feel, which is that is collaboration, cooperation, and consonance to this idea. And we all know what important stature the ritual of Durga Puja and the Bishorjon that happens in Vijayadashami uh, is imprinted in the minds of these populaces. So we also hear about the changed identity that I am talking, which is the volatile waters, and the volatile waters causing the volatile identities to. So the question of the man-woman relationship again comes up when Podda talks to Nasir and says that a young Muslim man is staying at a Hindu woman's widow's house, and is that a normal thing on both sides of India or Bangladesh? To which obviously Nasir affirms that it is a very big thing even in India, and it is obviously a questionable thing for any man women uh, people or living communities in that particular place. Another important fact that I have touched upon is the dialect, which becomes a kind of practice, and this equation of the dynamics of partition again comes in, that your tone is different from ours, and a certain uses of words, tweaking the words doesn't actually change what you are saying in our dialect. So this kind of relationship develops. So Nasir to this retorts that the fascination film that comes through is one river. The dialects spoken on either side are so different. These are the things that brings us to this whole debate of cultural memory and why it is needed to be preserved and reserved and reimagined and brought to this thing. Another important aspect that comes up from Podda's words as a host is that a guest is considered equivalent to God in Bangladesh. So this shows the cultural affinity and the cultural pluralism that obviously on the course of undivided Bengal has shared or is still sharing. So this issue of partition becomes even potent even today. So the borders seem to be a kind of mm, transparent, and the border boundaries seem to be kind of dissolving in these areas, and it is basically pointed by the similarities and the very minute differences that we see. Uh, After this, we come to obviously the character of Ganesh Babu once again, and how he has been trying to impress upon Podda, who is a widow, and he tries hopeless. There is a kind of hopeless pining for him. There's also kind of one that he is pressing very patiently and pressing for this issue of age with to her, and it's a kind of a bit of obsession that we see, that he even takes on the BGB, that is the border guard Bangladesh officials as well in his side, so that Nasir at the end can cross the border. So this thing talks about something very pertinent about the character himself again. And one another important thing that comes up is the idea of uh, Podda. The idea, not just the idea of Podda, the character of Podda, and reflecting back on the idea of the river Podda. So Padma says that Padma is drying up, which is obviously a political issue, and it comes up through a very different kind of connotations, which are sensual, sexual, and this help of always the blocking of waters from either side of the border, or these pertinent issues is brought about, and this kind of thing is something we should ponder on. We bring I why I portrayed like I wanted to show this picture is the sequence of this entire night is very powerful, very evocative, very emotional, and it actually brings us to the different sinews of emotionality that is portrayed in the film within a man and woman. So, Potta claims that humans are so weird. If men get intoxicated, there's nothing wrong in it. But if women do, you have so much to say. So, this again brings us to the discussed ideas of how womanhood is perceived in this story and in film historiography. So Podda is shown in her pathos. There is a kind of pity on the part of the audience. There is sympathy. There is a kind of passion that is evocative, and her compassionate nature is obviously visible. The way she treats Nasir Ali, and this kind of the one who saves the life and the one who cannot forget her. The dialogues that is very provocative is very evocative of all things. And Podda, who in this film embodies her a finished existence of due to a drunkard who had not cared about her, and obviously the society which always tries to see her as something to be traded off, including Ganesh Babu. This scene brings us to a very emotional turmoil that goes within the character of Podda more, because it reflects onto the lot of women or widows in particular as well, and this scene also and the dialogues also evoke that. So this is some of the things that I have felt in these films. I would like to open the session for discussion so that we get into the dynamics again of how and what are the things that come up in this film. So firstly, I would obviously like to take in views that BISHORJON as a partition movie. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much, Indro. And it is now open for discussion. Maybe you would want to stop screen sharing. Yeah. Yeah, it is now open for discussion. And Indro, you began by saying that this is not, an art film in the sense that the earlier two were. But to me, in addition to that, it also seems that it is not as much a river film in the way the earlier two films were. Even if you look at the number of scenes of the river, it is not as central to the visuality of the film as the earlier two. And nor does it say anything much about the community that lives by the river. It is totally focused on romantic relationships. And also, in fact, there is something mystifying about Padma's isolation. The dilapidated home she lives in, its distance from the village market, all of these contribute to the ease with which she is able to hide Nasir Ali. And even within the home, she can live in isolation. Her father-in-law doesn't even suspect that there is another person in the home. And for me personally, somehow the highlights of this film were the acting and the writing of the characters. Kaushik Ganguly as Ganesh Mondal is simply brilliant. The way he alternates between menacing and, the foolish lover boy. Every time he visited Padma and the way he would leave, just uttering that single word, Ashchi, would just send a shudder down my spine. And the irony is that ultimately it turns out that he's just a man foolishly in love, almost in a comical way. And the man remains a fool to the end because he's blissfully unaware that the boy he takes to be his own son is not even his own. Even the name of the boy, Montu, Ganesh Mondal is unaware that it is actually the pet name of Nasir Ali. And of course, the erotic charge in the film is something that you have already spoken about, and the dialogue. And it seems as if that erotic charge is just, hovering below the surface in the representation of Padma and Nasir Ali's relationship. What I also found interesting is the character of Love. As a sidekick and as one who is blindly loyal to Ganesh, somehow I got the feeling, I could be wrong, maybe you could correct me, that this characterization, had a gay subtext. Especially if we take into consideration Kaushik Ganguly's filmography, like Arekti Premer Golpo is about transgender identity. Nagor Kirtan is known as an LGBT film, and Ushna Tor Janiye deals with a lesbian relationship. And I was wondering if you would like to say something about the nationalist elements in the film. That flag scene somehow, it kind of made me cringe. It appeared forced onto the narrative, especially when Nasir Ali says, "I love my country." It seemed like he had to necessarily play the role of the good Muslim. So these are some of my thoughts, and I hope the discussion will now carry on with others contributing to it as well. Anyone would like to come in, have a question or a comment?
Yeah, ma'am, I would like
Yes.
to respond to
Yeah,
some of
please.
the
Yeah, please.
issues,
Yeah, sure. Please
yeah,
go ahead. Yeah.
yeah, pertinent issues that you have raised. And obviously, the first thing about the river film. So, how is it a river film, or is it really a river film? To me, this film obviously is more about interpersonal relationships and the dynamics that goes on in some of the borderlands. So, to me, the river here, Chamoti, obviously is the pretext or actually the context of how this kind of activity persists in modern day Bengal as well. So this is one unique thing for a festival celebration and everything that goes on. And and myself being there, and I have seen the waters and the borderlands very closely. There is no obviously no markers of which part is India, which part is Bangladesh, and the neutral waters. And there is hardly any security force that is there. It comes and goes. Those are very they're kind of islands of time that they are seen. So this kind of open border is something which is very fascinating, and this open border on a riverine land is something which is fascinating and actually places the narrative of Hindu widow and a Muslim man and the issues and the political issues of smuggling in these lands. Also about how the river facilitates or probably the river is a kind of facilitator for these activities, and it is a living reality which I feel not just amnesia that I have talked about, but also a living reality that comes through. And without the river, I think the film would not have been complete in the sense that the way they meet and the way that they depart is something very unique, and another consequences that they face. This is what makes me actually also point to the novel of Vibhuti Bhushan Bandyopadhyay, which is also titled Ichamati. So there also we get certain stories which are on these lines, and how the fluvial waters and the open borders are like it's cultural exchange that goes on, and the not just of goods and services, but the cultural exchange and how both communities, there is a kind of plurality. There is also this unison within this plurality, and within such a short distance, this is something which I find that makes this film a kind of which can be deemed to be a river film. My question here, I would ask others to also comment on this, whether it can be deemed as a river film. And another thing is whether it can be deemed as a partition film, or why it cannot be deemed as a partition film for that matter. The issue that we have come across again and again. So I would like that thing. The erotic underpinnings within this narrative is definitely there, not just within Podda, as the widow, as the lonesome figure who has been holding on to the memories of her husband, of her drunkard husband. And then again, we see how she finds through the smell, through the smoke, and the very intoxicated levels that they reach. This also brings to her the memories. It is also, the scene is obviously that I showed the picture of, is obviously very evocative. They're very explicit, but also Ganesh Mondol's pining for a woman is very much there, and the way he listens to the words of the priest who recites to him the different slokas from the different religious texts, of how there are sensual and sexual innuendos that goes around in with reference to obviously Hori and uh, his consorts. So these are some of the other issues that are very pertinent, and obviously the comic figure of Ganesh Mundal comes to the figure. I would also bring to the point that Ganesh Mundal is not just comic. He to me, in certain sense, is also this ambiguous character. Whether we can deem him to be a necessary help, or whether he's helping out of one thing that he pines for always, is really a questionable thing. Whether he does this out of his own endeavor, or whether to get or to, like, just the way he describes how he catches a fish and leaves it and sells it off. So this dialogues also make us think whether the ploy that he deploys is something to be questioned, whether he is for that matter uh, a dark comic figure, or someone who is uh, like a megalomaniac for this women. So these are some of the questions that does come through, and obviously it is ambiguous in the sense that how he treats others, and how he talks very politely, always very respectable, and does everything for Podda to be probably get some respect that which she lacks in her life. These are some of the things that comes to my mind. Yeah. So on Lau and his queer identity, it is I personally have not thought these lines. It is it's something obviously in his other films these things come through, but I personally feel that the indications are not that clear to claim him on those lines, is what I feel. He is more of the traditional servant that we have been seeing, or this type character that we see in the novels as well, of different, that how not just in novels, in the as well. For example, Ranjana, the friend, the different friends that we see in different films. So he's not obviously given an equal footing, but he is the one who facilitates. He's the one who actually spies on. He's the ear and the eyes of Ganesh Mundal, and obviously he's the one who tracks the plot of the calling to India, and there is something mischievous, or something going behind the scenes, which is what I feel. He is there for moving the plot further, rather than the implications of a queer identity. The nationalist element, again, I would suggest that it is not just about the flag holding scene, which obviously is something very pertinently put forward, of a very of a Muslim person from India holding the Indian flag, and it gets you some brownie points probably from the audience. But this nationalist element is pertinent from the very opening sequence of the song sequence, or the boats that move in and around the waters, and obviously Montu in the very opening sequence asking about what it is like in India and Bangladesh, and whether they are obviously on similar terms with relate to Durga Puja and everything. So this nationalist fervor is obviously there. It is not a very evocative. It is not very explicit in terms, but yeah, certain elements are really pressed to make the narrative a kind of something to be uh, like belonging to this theme of the nationalist element is what I feel, because otherwise we have only the references of the radio waves where we hear about Sheikh Hasina and the BGB, and these are the things. Mostly it's local dilemma that engulfs the film rather than the nationalist elements, which you very rightly put forward. So these are some of the views that I share. I obviously would love to hear the ideas that others share, or what are the other things that I feel as well.
Thank you for your responses, Indro. Any other comments? Yeah, Nikhila, please go ahead.
Thanks, Indro, for the film. I had not known of this film, and as I was telling Geeta just before we began, I had also not known that there is a kind of sequel to the film called Vijaya, which I would love to watch. I like this film very much. I like the melodrama. Which is a really it was quite an engaging film, though it was over 2 hours, a very, very interesting and engaging film, I thought. 2-3 points about the film, and also about some of the points that you were raising. One, looking back at the film now, now after your presentation, one of the things that strikes you is this is supposed to be about a community that is a minority in Bangladesh, and yet it seems that except the figure of the doctor, the Vaid who comes to treat, there's hardly anyone else who is a Muslim or a prominent Muslim character there. So in a sense, the predicament, the predilections of a minority within the space of Bangladesh, or for that matter, what does it mean to be a Muslim in West Bengal? The film is not really interested in exploring that particular aspect, I thought. The main danger is that he finds himself on the wrong side of the border, and probably because he is a smuggler. Other than that, it seems to play out a certain kind of fantasy, of transgression, and the erotic charge that Geeta was mentioning that arises as a result of this transgression. A Hindu woman and a Muslim man, and the way in which she, what I found very interesting is, and also a kind of justification that is given within the narrative, is that she thinks of him in some ways. She makes him don her husband's clothes, gives him the same cigarettes to smoke, and the same drink that her husband. So in a way, it narratively justifies this transgression by claiming that he's no more than a kind of someone who is a stand-in for the husband. So though there is this idea of transgression across communities, yet it is kind of explained away as something that she sees as a kind of continuation with of a relationship with her husband. So I thought that was quite interesting. The second point I want to make is again something that Geeta mentioned, this Ganesh Mondal character. I think what it means to be Sharif, and the irony of it, and the what does it mean to be someone who's such a shady person outside this veneer of being Sharif? I mean, I haven't seen a film which does it so wonderfully as this film does, you know. So, I mean, he's comical, but there is also something that is, you know, so sexually frustrated, and the kind of stories that he listens to, all in Sanskrit, which all of which justifies both his being Sharif as well as his indulgence of, you know, his cultivation of his whatever, his sexual indulgence, whatever. So I thought that is coming out so wonderfully. And in the end, we really see what or how, why it is tragic for Padma to kind of end up with a man like Ganesh. And the third point I want to make is Indro. I don't know, I think you're here. So Indro, about this point that you're bringing up as an art film festival, and this, I think if we think of art cinema as a particular kind of historical moment that came up in the 1970s, that privileged a certain kind of realist aesthetic, and that was kind of funded by certain kinds of organizations, including state funding. Well, maybe this is not an art film, but also I think it's time for us to rethink this category, unless you want to kind of use it as a descriptor of a particular kind of film history or film movement within quotes. I don't know how useful it is as a conceptual category to look at the wide array, the wide variety of films. You know, your river-centric is fine. I mean, there's so much that is happening at the river site, not just the meeting of two people across different communities and nations, but also the point that Padma makes, that once you know, the goddess is kind of put into the river, all that you get is just clay and skeleton. So, so BISHORJON for me is also about those aspects. Once you pare down the exterior, the veneer, what remains? You can ask that about any of these characters, I thought, in the film. Thank you very much, Indro.
Thank you, Nikhila. Tarkeshwar has raised his hand, but before that, Indro, would you like to respond, or would you like to take Tarkeshwar's questions and comments? Is Indro there?
Yes, ma'am, I'm here.
Okay, yeah. So would you like to respond to Nikhila, or shall we take Tarkeshwar's comments, questions as well?
Yeah, ma'am, we can proceed. I kind of obviously think what Nikhila ma'am said is something what I agree to on certain most levels.
Okay. Okay, Tarkeshwar, please go ahead.
Yeah, I was joining issue with what Nikhila was trying to say, and the other issues that have come up, mainly about classifying the film, whether it's a river film or not, whether it's an art film or not. I don't know why it should matter to us whether it's a river film or not. Is there a genre called river film? I think he's using it as a kind of a broad umbrella term to bring in certain films together to understand certain issues. So there's nothing like a river film as a genre, because you've not yet. Yes, it's true. Compared to other films, the river doesn't figure prominently here, visually, as Geeta was saying. But in spite of that, river is performing a certain function within the narrative here. So that can be seen, river as a kind of metaphor for separating relations, bringing something to you unexpectedly, and carrying you away from where you are there to another place. So it is capable of dislocating you, separating things, separating India from Pakistan, separating one village from another, one community from another. It is life giver as well as life taker in that sense. So in that sense, river as a metaphor performs that kind of function even within this narrative too. So to that extent, we can bring this film under this broad rubric called river films. But I don't think whether we can call river film as a genre with specific characteristics, plot structure, and mode of narration, something like that. So in that sense, it is not. And again, I don't know why we need to worry about whether it's an art film or not. If you are looking at issues of partition, issues of river as a metaphor, issues of nationalism, whether it's an art film or not is immaterial to us. It is important to us to the extent, can we deploy the same analytical tools while discussing art film, which has a different mode of narration, generally quote unquote realistic mode of narration, and a melodramatic mode of narration. So in terms of analyzing the filmic text, what kind of tools we need to deploy, there I think what is this nature of this text is in terms of mode of narration, that becomes important. To that extent, I think whether it's an art film or a art film in the sense having the mode of narration, a kind of realistic one or a melodramatic one, I don't think this film is in any sense art film as such, because the mode of narration is melodramatic. Certain characters are caricatured, even though that moneylender local businessman is the character is portrayed brilliantly, but it also borders on a kind of stock character, or his henchman who follows her. They are all stock characters. In that sense, I think this is more or less a melodramatic film for me. Even what Geeta mentioned about the flag, she's looking at the flag and then trying to hide it. He is holding onto that flag, even being unconscious, and all those things refer to that. But that is immaterial, whether it's an art film or not. It is important to us only to the extent how we analyze the text, because the narrative technique, mode of narration, all these things are important to deploy certain kind of tools to make sense of the text. To that extent, yes, these things are important. Otherwise, they need not be important to us. I will stop here. Thank you.
Thank you, Tarkeshwar. Any responses from either Indro or the others here?
Just one more point.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, this stressing the point that art film brings in people otherwise who are neglected in the mainstream. I think that is also too simplistic, I would say. See, every film, if you look at it as a kind of text, the text bears the markers of the time in which it is produced and the agencies which act on the production of that text at that point of time. So in that sense, whether it's an art film or a melodramatic film or a commercial film, whatever you want to classify it as, it will bear the marks of the time, marks of the agencies that have acted on it, the forces that have acted on it at the time of production. So in that sense, any text, whether it's a commercial or non-commercial, art or non-art, it will bear the marks of that. If you're looking at the issues of partition, issues of cultural memory, issues of constructing the past, issues of identity, I don't think this kind of valorization of one form of mode of narration over the other, I don't know whether it will take us too far. But the way these issues get configured and gets narrated, and the impact of that, they can be different. That we need to look at. But valorizing that only this film will have this kind of issues, but not the other. Even the other mode of narration too has a lot of things to say about the current society, the past, the memory, the identity issues, and things like that. So in that sense, the distinction, we should not carry it too far. That I wanted to stress again. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Tarkeshwar. Yeah,
Hello,
Ajanta.
Geeta. Yes,
Yeah,
good
please.
evening. Yes, so
Good
first of
evening.
all, thank you to Indra for curating this very fine festival and to all the participants. I agree with all of you, and I think we are this in the kind of spirit of identifying the research gap. Yeah, so we are all struggling with this question. So I also I wanted to say this, but I wanted to kind of more make a point. Both adding to and kind of bringing in another reference here. So this film actually, for some strange reason, reminded me of Mr. and Mrs. Iyer, Aparna Sen, right? There too, it's a woman and she's hiding this person's Muslim identity, right? And here clearly he's not from another country. So to kind of problematic, or if you think of a film like Veer Zara, right? So in some ways, Ghatak is high on melodrama. So clearly that aesthetic, in a sense, cannot be the defining category of how we conceptualize the films that we have chosen. This is also, as many others have pointed out, it's not about the people who live by the river and, kind of make, in some ways, as Padhanudhin Maji, in a very, very critical sense was. So I was more, interested in this category of partition film, right? I don't know, so clearly in terms of theme, one can say, yeah, if it's two sides of the border and so on. But if you think of a film like Mr. and Mrs. Iyer, Indra, would you consider that a kind of partition film also? I'm also kind of grappling with you about this question of genres. What are the conceptual categories that are important? Clearly, in terms of art cinema, it's a concept kind of funding, and an assumption of high art as opposed to the Bombay melodrama. But as the organization of the industry has itself changed, FFC and FDC, in a sense, now a completely different, So Kaushik Ganguly is emerging from this period in Bangla cinema too. Aparna Sen, to me, in some ways, carries this legacy of art cinema. Yeah, but she's a very, so, just your responses. How would you actually conceptualize these central categories, such as what is a partition film within the Bangla industry? Who are for you the main, directors of Bangla art cinema today? Rituparna Ghosh, apart from one or two. So I think that might give us some clarity. But one, I wanted to say I love watching these films. So, thanks for a great selection. Whatever, however we decide, we're going to take this forward.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
I obviously take into this discussion on the modes of narration. That is definitely a question, which is very, very pertinent. That whether this film is an art film or whether we can consider. Definitely, we can on the modes as Sir has talked about, that on the modes of representation, this cannot be considered as an art film. But the point for bringing this film into this discussion of river-centric art films is again problematizing what Nikhila ma'am has also talked about. What is exactly an art film, or are we restraining this category as art films, or what can we rethink the category? So these are some of the questions that I wanted to bring, and obviously from the point of view of the other two films that we have seen, the people and the community that resides, this is very different from all those. And the main point that I wanted to bring forward with this film is obviously the part of memory and the cultural exchanges, the cultural pluralism is what I wanted to focus on, and the identities that actually the nuanced identities that are actually forming and getting into. This is what one, I think, something very uniquely this film portrays, this kind of dilemmas of where a river is in this film actually uses the river in a very blatantly metaphorical level, as Sarah has also talked about. So very blatantly, it is one thing that we as literary practitioners always think river to be. This is exactly what a river is, and all the characters of Ganesh and Lau, they fall into these categories. So this is something of a digression from the ones that we have had critical ones that we had discussed extensively on the river itself, the philosophy of the river, of whether it can be considered as a something post-human, for that matter, whether it has a life of its own, and what drives what the river was the main agent which was driving the narratives in the other films, but this film is not. Coming to the issue of partition film, obviously, I also feel that this is not a partition film. It just has the nationalist elements, and the characteristics are very different when it comes to partition film, where we see most times in Subarnarekha and other films, we see where the pathos and the dislocation, the displacement of Epar Bangla, Opar Bangla happens. And therein comes not just the issues of pitting one community against the other. So this film, obviously, in that sense, definitely it is not a partition film, which I feel. It can be a transnational film, for that matter, if we are to categorize, but I personally feel we do not need to categorize any of this. So this film, obviously, from our discussion, comes through as an anomaly within this river-centric art films thing, but it provokes us to that same kind of film historiography, the questions that are there of what we are trying to actually portray, like trying to say that this institutional cultural heritage, that these kind of information transmission of these very unique instances that happen across the rivers or within the rivers is something very fascinating. To look into this film also from the category of the feature film, obviously it is, but the funding part and the production house and obviously it does not have all those. It's not a very highly funded invested film, for that matter. It has a very plain surroundings and settings, and very it doesn't have the exotic scenes or things that we see in maybe a Karan Johar film or a Sanjay Leela Bhansali film. We do not need to produce that, because it is placed in the very real pictures and shows the real importance. And this is where I bring into why this film also comes into the category of being a protector or a protector of the cultural memory that needs to be preserved. So these are the things that which I feel something fascinated me to take up this film as well. And I'm very thankful for all the inputs that I have received. And as I'm not obviously a film critique or a film scholar, but this is also something which I am also learning, and some of the things that I intend to develop upon for these kind of discussions and for publishing papers and writing articles. So this is a very, very enriching experience for me as well. Thank you to everyone for that.
Thank you, Indro. Any more comments, questions? Sridhar, would you like to say something? Yeah,
Not
please go
exactly.
ahead.
I was
Okay.
wondering how the injured person was brought home in the first scene. Huh? Like
That's a
it looks like a Telugu film.
that's a narrative leap that the film has taken. Indro, would you like to say something?
That's a very I don't know. That really is something to be pondered upon. Obviously,
It's not a question, it's a comment, just I'm kidding.
yeah, it's really something very I would say hilarious for that matter to be pondered upon. It's obviously a narrative leap and also a narrative leak as well. So a woman trying to bring, I don't know whether her house is very close to the waters is something very, very much pertinent. So that is one thing. Yeah.
Geeta, if I may
Yeah.
just ask.
Yeah, please.
Indru. Yeah.
Please,
So,
please.
Indru, towards the end of the film, something that I didn't quite follow, towards the end of the film, Ganesh ensures a safe passage for Nasir. That I got. But there is something like an undercurrent of, maybe he doesn't really want, I mean, he will betray the promise that he has given. So there's something that keeps us guessing whether he will actually fulfill his promise. That meeting that he has probably with the border officials. What is it? I mean, is it to build up, suspense in the narrative? Is it just for that? Is this meeting happening in order to ensure a safe passage? I didn't quite get that kind of the tone and tenor of that last sequence, but I want to also say that I enjoyed very much that that last scene where she's sitting on the cart, which is dragging her backwards, but her face is in the direction in which Nasir is going. I thought that was fabulously done. I really enjoyed that very much. But this, I mean, is it building up ambiguity, in order to keep us guessing, or was it something that I was imagining?
Just
Yeah.
to add to Nikhila, to what Nikhila has said, I also felt something very similar, Nikhila, and especially when he looks at Nasir through this border security person, when he looks through the binocs, like it's almost as if, you get the feeling that probably somewhere, they're going to maybe, just bump him off or something like that. And definitely it ends on a note of unease and also a huge question mark. Yes, I thought so too.
Yeah. So responding to this very this kind of riveting last kind of sequences or the montages that we see. So obviously Ganesh meeting the BGB official and showing him the picture of Nasir is something builds up to the tension and the suspense of what it is going to happen, like whether he is going to hand over Nasir to the BGB or he's going to make a safe passage through to India is something to be which one the audience obviously feels at that point of time, but we see that what happens. He is obviously made to go past the waters. For that, I think that also something portrays back to the character of Ganesh is the way he has been a I would say self-invested within the character of, or within the character of Podda, and something which comes up again and again, that he is very politely, as a gentleman, trying to give in to the wishes or whatever she does. But we also have to take into account the Podda's own self-esteem, and her decision to marry Ganesh at the end, for a safe passage. I interpreted it is that way, that she transacted her own integrity. I won't say integrity. Her own choice of marrying Ganesh, so that she can ensure a safe passage for someone, a person who has who to some extent has brought the fitting waters, which she obviously keeps on referring that Podda is drying up and everything. So this Purush that comes to her life, this actually and the decision of the marriage probably is something that I personally, I did not feel that Ganesh would betray Podda, because that would again be a very dark kind of thing. But obviously the ending is very poignant in that sense, with the binoculars. But when we go into the sequel of the film Bijoya, we know that obviously Nasir Ali has crossed the waters, and he has ended on the other side, and he's safe there. And for to me, the most important fact of this last few sequences is also this idea of promise that Podda seeks from this illegal tradesperson or a smuggler, and Nasir replying to him that this is the last sin that I commit of having a secret love and secret passion in Bangladesh, and this is the last sin that I would commit in my life. This is something more, I feel, more engaging, and that scene of cart drawing Podda away, and her face towards the water or the river, is something I feel two references I would bring here. One is the last scene of the film Kahani, and also if some of us have seen the immersion of Durga idol, Pratima, who goes down, and the way that the face is always obviously towards the sky, or towards the people who immerse the goddess, and the gradual descent into the water is I feel that this sequence tries to recreate that thing. So it's a very cinematographically, that is very sound and very evocative, and that is what I have to say.
Yeah, thank you, Indra. Any other comments? Okay.
May not be related to the discussion, but I just want to ask why after praying Durga that many days, they bury in the water?
That is traditionally what happens is it shows us that Durga is coming to her father's house, which is in this Morto, we call it, which is the land which is the earth, with her sons and daughters. And again, she arrives. It's a tradition that she arrives on different vehicles. Like sometimes she arrives on a horse, sometimes she arrives on boat, sometimes she arrives on elephant. So these things, it is determined by the solar and lunar positions. And this immersion actually signifies that she is she is going back again to her in-laws house, which is Shiva's place, into the Kailash. So this is something which is obviously the tradition, and probably the water, because of the goddess that is there, and it is not kept unless it is a Durga temple. Most places also the Durga, the adorned figure of Durga is not there. Most places, it is only this worn out mud or the structures and the bamboos that remains in that place. Mostly that happens, and it is kind of reverence that we that is present in the Bengali tradition or the Hindu tradition, for that matter.
Yeah, it's like in the immersion of the Ganesh idols at the end of 10 days of worship, right?
Yeah, on a lighter note, see, once you invest an object with divinity and you don't know what to do once that purpose is over. So there should be a ritual to de-divinize it. I think this Visarjan is a kind of ritual to de-divinize it, I think. If I can use that term, I don't know. So you invest a certain object with divinity, and then once that purpose is over, then you need what to do with it. So you need to de-divinize it, and the best way of doing it is to dispose it off in a respectable way. Not only with Ganesha and Durga, even with other things which take the shape of the god once in a year, like a stone or even cow dung or even turmeric powder. So once you make the idol through that and then worship, invite God to take that take the shape of that object. After the worship is over, you will have some kind of ritual to de-divinize it, which obviously in the case of Durga and Ganesha, they call it Visarjan. This is only on a later note, not a serious statement. Yes.
Yeah, but that sounds quite logical.
No, but it also, I feel, I mean, it has to do with, one is, of course, this desacralizing it, or, as Tarakeshwar said. But in the specific context of Durga, I would also think that maybe it has something to do with, the way in which you want to kind of, what shall we say? I mean, it's a form that is dangerous in the way it is. So you have to kind of dilute it and, make it, bring it more under your control or whatever, right? I mean, so you can only worship for a specific period. Outside of that period, I don't know whether you would continue to do that. So I don't know if I'm making sense.
But that divinity becomes devility. That's why they.
Yeah, right. So probably that aspect too.
But also, Nikhila, sorry.
One thing more we also need to look at is.
Yeah, Ajanta, please go ahead.
Just like the Ganpati festivals, a whole transformation happens in the 19th century, in Bengal, with the nationalist movement, and Durga really, this whole Anandamot, etc. And Durga is not Kali; she's a very, very domesticated woman. So you're right, apart from the fact that she comes home, the fact I don't know, how this Visarjan was done maybe 500 years ago, but the current form of worship that we have, if I'm not wrong, and Indra can correct me on this, is very much like, 150 to 200 years old. I think the earlier forms in which, Durga Puja happened itself was very different. And of course, now, I mean, it's not just the pandals, etc., but the very, the community worship and what she signifies changed very much, in that cusp when this whole Bharat Mata, etc., also come into being. So there's a very specific context to this, as there is indeed to the whole Ganapati festival and how that changes too. So I'm not very sure about BISHORJON as such, but the whole mode of worship also takes a specific contour around that time. No? Okay.
Yeah, Indro, did you want to come in?
Yeah, I was just referring to not in terms of all this, but just something that we need to consider the craftsmanship that also goes behind the making of Durga idols, and for whatever matter, and the labor that goes behind, and the circular kind of economy that is involved in it. So it is also kind of thing that we need to keep into account for that matter. And it's a kind of art that is there. Very few of the Durga Pratimas are restored. Very few, probably one or two. In Kolkata, we have restored some of it, but it is not done so. It's a kind of ritual that is practiced mostly.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? Okay. We will end the session here then. Thank you very much, Indro, for your third film and for initiating the discussion. We look forward to the next and the last film in this festival, which will be an Assamese film by Janu Barua, Kogaroloi Bohudur. So do log in, and thank you all for participating in this meeting. Good night. Have a
Thank you,
nice
Indra.
Sunday.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you,
Indra.
everyone. Good
Good
night.
night.
Good
Thank
night.
you.
Thank
Good night.
you. Good night.